What's up, family? This is the original Nagamayan, and today is part 2 of how certain tarot cards identify with the IVF or fertility journey. So, let go. Alright, so last time I talked a little bit about the Hierophant card, telling me to go back to my, ancestors' religion, my ancestors' ways, their spirituality. What I didn't mention last time that I'm going to mention today, because it is related to a few other cards, is that it led me in my journey back to a temple that my aunts were attending, which was a Kali temple. Now, some of you may have heard about Kali on Ancient Aliens. You may have seen her kind of like blown up into this scary figure, and some people might even misinterpret her for being evil, but she's so not evil. So Kali is that blue-black goddess with the hair. She almost is Medusa-like, and she has all the different arms and stuff, and they each have very scary-looking objects in it, like knives and whatnot. So, I could kind of see why people think that. And she is known for destroying things in order to rebuild them. So I went back to that temple with my aunts, and it's part of my ancestry, and at that temple, people sometimes, similar to how people may catch the Holy Spirit in a Christian church, people at this Kali temple would vibrate with the spirit of Kali Mai in them, and their bodies would get very hot, and they would have to be sometimes doused with water or step in and out of buckets of water. And they definitely channel messages, and they start dancing, they start vibrating. It was beautiful the first time that I had returned there during my IVF journey. I was sitting in the temple, and they started up with these drums. Once they busted out with the drums, it was like, it wasn't even dholak, it was some other, like tapu, I'm sorry, it was tapu drums. This tapu drum has a primordial sound. It just has a sound like human primal origin. When you hear it, it's similar to how African drums are, because the cultures are very closely related. They started slamming on those drums, boy, like bum, 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 like that, and then I just couldn't help my body moving and being and like swaying to it. And there were some people who would straight up get up and start moving around their clothes and dancing, somewhat like sexual. Because I'll tell you what Kali does, and this is how it's related to the journey. She is closely connected to the Kundalini area, to sexuality, the feminine divine, to reawakening that part, which was, hello, exactly what I needed in order to conceive. So when I got that Hierophant card, it led me to open myself again to ancestral spiritual ways. And being at that temple, you could feel the sexual primal energy. You could literally feel your Kundalini awakening. And I had noticed that people in the temple that I knew outside of the temple had very, I don't know how it's, I don't want to offend anyone, but they had very vibrant sexual lives, and here's another card that I would get in connection or in conjunction with the Hierophant. Sometimes I would get the Queen of Wands. She's a very fiery character. It indicated to me that I was indeed awakening my Kundalini or my sacral chakra. You actually, even though they say that they need the uterus to be toned, for conception, and especially for holding the baby and for childbirth, the toning part, some people misunderstand it to mean that, that you should not be sexual, but actually reopening that sexuality, that sexual appetite actually does help to tone it as well. Okay, and all the feelings that you have, and all the things that those feelings cause your body to produce, and there is just a feeling of relaxation and enjoyment. And sexuality is spiritual too. It's basically raising your vibration. There's so many different ways to raise vibration, and a lot of times I find that through music, A lot of times I find it through, different activities, sometimes even working out, like when you feel the burn, like you're really going hard at your workout and you just feel high. So, yeah, so these two cards, and sometimes, so this was the Hierophant and the Queen of Wands. Okay. And the third card that was telling me to go back to spirituality and the divine feminine was the High Priestess. All right, and she was a version of Kali Mai. Now I want to show you another thing. Check this out. The Strength card is supposed to show when that setbacks and delays are gonna be overcome, and like recovery from illness, recovery from sickness, like a forge of strength and fortitude, right? But also, if you take a look at the picture, you could please Google Durga. She's a Hindu goddess, D-U-R-G-A, Durga. She is a manifestation of, guess who? Of Kali. So these gods, they manifested into different gods. I would get her all the time, the Strength card. The Strength card in tarot means that you need to apply balance to a difficult situation. Look at how the woman is prying open the lion's teeth with a gentleness. So it was, it's a little bit like the Temperance card, but in my case, like I told you in this IVF journey, a lot of times the cards mean something very special and personal. For me, it meant going back to Mother Durga. Take a look at how she looks. Google her. She is a goddess who is sitting on a lion or a tiger. She is controlling her animalistic nature. She is controlling it. So those things were very powerful for me. Now, speaking of animalistic, I want to tell you about a little detour that I took on my IVF journey. So I kept getting disappointed, after the egg retrievals, they were not getting any egg to mature. And it was completely, it was just heartbreaking. I would get this card the night before a procedure. If it was not going to amount to an egg, I would get this card, which is heartbreak and bad news. And I wasn't trying to hear it when I got this card. I just tried to put it out of my mind. I'm stubborn. I will do the cards again and again. I'll be like, nope, you're going to tell me something else. But guess what? Similar cards to this would keep coming up. It's like the message is the message. You can't ignore it. So this is the card that was telling me that I was about to hear bad news. This card also was pretty bad for me. In tarot, it doesn't necessarily mean something bad. It means like what Kali does, tearing away to rebuild, right? This is the Tower card. However, for me, it always seemed to represent me losing control, losing faith. Like after I would come back from procedure after procedure, like, no, there's no egg, there's no egg, there's no egg. I would just break down after a while, This was me. This was the image of what I was going through internally. IVF is a kind of journey where, like, even if you have a supportive partner, going through it with you, sleeping in the same bed with you, it's really a journey that you go through alone. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when a person is born, you have to do it alone. You're going through your mother's womb alone. Like, she's pushing, or the doctor maybe cut her open, but there is work that you have to do on your own that no one else can experience because it's only through your eyes, Same thing with death. When a person is sick and they're dying and they're taking their last breath, somebody could be holding your hand through it, but they're not feeling what you're feeling inside. And I don't care how supportive the partner is through the IVF journey, you are still going through the bulk of the work, the bulk of the pain, the emotional pain. All of the physical pain, but the emotional pain on top of that, by yourself. And people might tell you things to try to make you feel better and to give you hope. And after a while, you're like, okay, he or she's just telling me that, and I appreciate that they're telling me that, and I want them to keep telling me positive things. However, when you sleep at night, the doubts start creeping in, and the fear, like, oh my gosh, having kids was the most important thing for me in my life. And that fear was there, like holy shit, like, am I gonna go through my whole life not having kids? Everyone feels different about kids, but kids were my thing. I always wanted to have kids. I'm a teacher. Imagine how hard it was for me to go in my classroom every day and teach my kids, my students, and I couldn't have kids myself. You know, that was very hard for me to go through. And this is how I felt. It was not just physical pain, but it was mental anguish, the questions, the doubts, the fear of loneliness, the fear of not having a legacy, of not having kids, the fear of the fear, because sometimes you fear, the fear of the egg retrievals, which I mentioned in my last video, were very painful for me. This was the card that I got that always represented that I was, you know, like, brace yourself for the pain. But you know something, honey? You become so used to the egg retrievals. I started going in there after a while. I mean, I went through IVF for about 3-4 years. Every couple months. There would be sometimes chunks of time where I would wait 5-6 months, but usually every 3 months. And after a while, I would just go in there to the egg retrieval room. It would be like a bed, and they were cute about it. They had these stars on the ceiling, you know, like if you were a little kid, and they would tell you, look up at the stars, you know. I became so used to it. I would just lay down. I'd be like, I know what to do already. Like, you could probably give me the instruments, and I mean, no, I don't want to go that far, but you know, I got so used to it, and my pain threshold actually increased. You know, it became normalized to me. I became accustomed to it. But yeah, this card really braced me for it. It was like, brace yourself. And I don't know, everyone is different. Some people don't like to expect the pain. For me, yeah, gas me up, hype me up, tell me how much it's gonna hurt, because I'm gonna be so prepared for it that when I feel it, I'm be like, oh, that's it, you know. And that was how I approached it. Like, I'm ready for it. Bring it on. Sometimes it makes you tense up a lot, which makes it difficult, but you know, you have to be like her and apply balance, control your emotions throughout this whole process. And the egg retrieval, they're actually taking like a micro needle and picking, they're actually like scraping your ovaries and your uterus. They're picking the follicles, the microscopic follicles out of you. Like if you get a big gush on your body, sometimes you don't even realize you have it. But if you get a splinter, you feel that shit. You feel it like, ah, you know? So that's basically what it was like for me. It was like, those pinches were, oof. I'm sorry if I'm scaring you. I'm just trying to be real. Everyone is different. Everyone is different. It hurt me a lot. There's some women who did it who did not feel, there were some women who said they didn't feel pain. And I'm just like, kudos to you. It ain't me. Okay, last time I had mentioned this card, that it was a warning from spirit, from the tarot spirit, that I was waiting too long, sitting on my eggs. It was like, do something, Naga. Make your move. Like, you gotta go to the clinic, do your research, go in, schedule another egg retrieval. I wasn't doing it. I was afraid for how it would turn out, because after you fail a lot of times, sometimes you feel like you don't even want to try again, just because you don't want to experience the failure again. You know what I'm saying? So that's what that card was. But sometimes in conjunction or in substitute for it, because like I told you, I am very stubborn. If I got this card and I didn't like it, I would keep asking the tarot. And then the tarot, which, you know what, tarot be having an attitude sometimes, and she would be like, boom, like, bitch, you didn't get what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you chilling too much, you are waiting too much, and you need to do the damn thing. The Hanged Man. That's what I would get. These two cards, all right? That was the message from Spirit. This was another disappointment card that, you know, I would sometimes ask, how would this egg retrieval come out? Or will this follicle mature into a blastocyst? And tarot would be like, nah, this is the disappointment card. And it's like, you know, you did all this work, look at the cups. Some of them are thrown over. It also means that you'd still have 2 cups standing. So it was telling me like, okay, your efforts did not materialize into anything, like these efforts, but you still have something in your favor. maybe you still have good health or something, or you still have potential. It could also symbolize potential, you know, or maybe even telling me to look at the bright side, that even if I didn't make children or a child, that like I still have my career, I still have a beautiful family, like my nuclear family, you know, I still have so many other things, traveling, you know, to look forward to. Oh, speaking of traveling, let me tell you about this one. So I said in the last video that there were times when I took like a 6-month break from it, just because I was so afraid of disappointment. One of those breaks is when I decided to just travel one summer, and I went to Jamaica, and again, I was so afraid of facing the outcome that I drank a lot in Jamaica. And this card usually means daydreams and illusions, like you are, it's like has kind of like a little bit of a Neptunian energy to it. Like you are not seeing things for the reality of what it is. That's what I was doing. I was just trying to travel and distract myself and put it out of my mind, which is good to some extent. You have to take breaks, you have to raise your vibration. So I definitely recommend traveling now and then, you know, but it had become a permanent route for me, and I drank a lot on that vacation, and I feel like it did a little bit of damage to my body. I wasn't, you know, I had gone off the wagon with my fertility diet, and I came back to New York, and I just felt awful. I went back to check how many follicles I had, and I didn't have a lot of follicles. It had gone down. It's amazing how like diet and lifestyle, like I was having fun and raising my vibration, right? But you gotta have, where is she again? She keeps coming up in this conversation. But you gotta have this, you gotta have balance. All right? Can't just go crazy, you know? So raise your vibration, but you know, keep to a plan a little bit. So this was the card that was telling me like, baby girl, slow down. This is also a card that usually means happiness, usually means joy and fulfillment. But sometimes when I was getting the card, especially at that time I was reading reversals, this was debauchery. I was claiming a victory too certain, almost too early. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna travel my life away and just have fun and just, you know, I just won't have, I'll give up, you know. And then other times when I got it right side up, it meant for me, take a look at this. I told y'all I have twins, right? Look at the two little kids dancing. Isn't that crazy? Like this card kept coming up, and it's actually what I had. I had twins. You know, that was my dream come true. This card, the Page of Cups, was telling me that I would have a baby maturing. So let me explain this, right? IVF tarot is a little bit different. This card usually means something else in tarot, but with the IVF journey, this card meant for me that one of my little embryos was going to develop into a fish. Because no joke, you know how these embryos and blastocysts and fetuses look in your stomach? They look like fish. They look like tadpoles at first, and then they look like fish. Take a look at this card. It was telling me that the one embryo, my first embryo that made it to blastocyst stage, it was a surprise to me because I was thinking negatively. I was actually not even going to bother with the retrieval because the doctor told me that I only had one follicle. He was like, you sure you want to have the insurance waste one of the procedures when it's only for one egg? I was crying, got on the phone with my mom, and my mom is like, she is like Durga. She don't play. She is Mrs. Strength. And she told me, she was like, Naga, go back. Why is the doctor discouraging you? I was like, he's not discouraging me. It's me. I don't want to do it. She was like, what's wrong with you? One egg is one piece of hope. She was like, hope is all you need, and you have one. And she talked to me. She was like, of course, she's very Catholic. She was like, don't give up on that egg. She was like, that egg deserves to live. Oh, she hit me with the Catholic rhetoric. And I fell for it. This was the card. That embryo did indeed make it to blastocyst stage. It was the first of my embryos that made it to blastocyst stage. This card was telling me to keep fighting, to stand up for my beliefs, and to not be discouraged. And this, you know, my mother had put that spirit into me to fight. Don't give up, you know. This was telling me that I was on the right path, that I was making my eggs. I think I mentioned in the last video to you that my goal was to accumulate eight eggs, eight matured embryo blastocysts, in order to get them tested as a batch and to figure out which one had the highest grade, and to transfer that back in. This was telling me that I was building. It was encouraging me, keep doing it, keep on. And you know what? Some people would have stopped after 2 operations with like 2 eggs and said, all right, I don't want to waste any more money and I don't want to go through any more pain. I just want to try these eggs. But for me, I didn't want to carry a baby for 3-4 months. Like if it was graded low, if those 2 eggs were graded low, I didn't want to carry it for 3-4 months and then miscarry. So I said, let me make 8 eggs, get them tested. One of those 8 is going to be the Superman or Superwoman. And that's who I'm looking for, the Superman or Superwoman. And I got my Superwoman. I got 2 Superwomen. I forget the egg grading, but it was basically like a AAA egg. I think it was the 6th or 7th of the eggs that made it to blastocyst stage. So I was doing the right thing by keeping on going, because who knows, if I put in one of the earlier eggs that had a slightly lower grade, I maybe, you know, maybe I would not have made it to full-term pregnancy. I had to, I'm a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist. I had to, and I don't like wasting time. So I wanted to make sure that I did things right, because if you miscarry, then you gotta take months to heal, like emotionally, physically. You have to clean, you have to get it all cleaned out. It's tough. Some people give up after that. So I was like, nah, my plan is I'm gonna do this perfectionist way, and you know, sometimes you gotta follow your instincts. This was telling me that there was new information. I needed to do more research. I went to a couple of different IVF clinics, and the first clinic, like I mentioned in the last video, I wasn't too happy with. Loved the doctor, loved his personality, very nice guy, but his clinic just wasn't up to par for me. And I had to do research. I Googled all day and all night in between my breaks at work and found the place. Actually, I had heard about it from a friend, didn't listen to her, but then I found it on my own. I was like, okay, it's meant to be. That was my research. I also did research on vitamins and things like that to take. And I mentioned that I would, you know, when I was partying and you know, on these vacations, I was, you know, this is another card. The devil card could mean bondage, but it also could mean excess. Drinking too much, doing other things that are considered, that are disapproved by society, you know, which I didn't do crazy stuff, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, I was just giving in to some of my carnal pleasures, like eating the wrong things, drinking a little bit. I don't want you to think I was an alcoholic. I wasn't, but my body is so sensitive that even one drink is a lot for me. I cannot drink 2 days in a row. So I am a real lightweight. Just disclaimer, you know, I'm talking about drinking. I don't want you to think I'm like, then, you know. Okay, so I told you guys at one point that I was going to the first IVF clinic, and he's a nice guy, but it wasn't for me. And I got a tip from a thyroid specialist to look for another place. So this card would come up a lot, you know, encouraging me to do my research. And then I started feeling guilty about it. This is the card that reflected my feelings. So just know that when you do tarot on IVF, sometimes the tarot is not telling you what to do. Sometimes it is just reflecting your feelings. It depends on what kind of spread you do. Like if you do a Celtic cross spread, it could be, if you get a card like this in the place of like your emotions or your emotional atmosphere, it could just be a reflection of how you're feeling. You feel guilty, like you betrayed someone. Look at this guy. He's got a sword, wielding a sword, but their backs are turned, right? So I felt a little bit like I was betraying him, like, oh man, he's a nice guy. Should I stick with this clinic? No, because I need success, and he's got a lot of other patients. Not like, you know, not like I'm closing him down by leaving. And I had to be her, the Queen of Swords. I had to listen to my mental. I couldn't get caught up in the emotions of like, oh, I love this doctor, he's a sweet guy, I'm already emotionally invested with him and in his clinic, you know. And then when I picked the clinic that I picked, I will tell you the name of the clinic. I do not work for this clinic. I'm not getting paid to promote this clinic. It's called New Hope Fertility Center in Manhattan. The address is 4 Columbus Circle, and the doctor's name is Dr. Zhang. Amazing doctor. He's the one that brought me to success. Okay, so after I chose that place, this is the card I got, the Justice card. Meant that I was doing all right. I was doing the right thing. Everything will be balanced out. The other IVF guy that I felt bad for leaving, for jumping ship, he's gonna be all right too. Everybody's gonna be all right. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say today. So I showed you this card last time. It definitely, look at how much it looks like a woman at her baby shower sitting on that wicker chair. I showed you this last time, the Empress. Definitely a fertility card. I also would sometimes, because remember, I'm a stubborn person with tarot, I will ask the tarot the same question again and again just to check. Maybe I got trust issues. I'll be like, let me check one more time. Sometimes, alternatively, instead of the Empress, I would get this lady right here, Queen of Cups, which to me also looked like a woman in a baby shower chair. And she's very tender and loving and supportive and creative. I would get her. She's spiritual too. It meant success that I would be sitting in that wicker chair, you know. And sometimes I got her. All the queens look very similar in the tarot deck. So sometimes if you don't get the Empress, don't think that it doesn't mean fertility success. Tarot may be giving you this woman or this woman instead. And look at her. She's holding a pentacle, which I explained. For me, the pentacles represented the follicles, because when you're having a vaginal sonogram, you will see what I mean. They take the pen camera and they move it around, which kind of hurts, but you will see it on the screen and it makes a little beep beep sound, and it looks like little pentacles. You basically see the black dots or the empty spaces. It's almost like cavities. You see the circles. It's circles, just like the pentacle. So this was me walking away from the clinic with my one lucky egg, lucky blastocyst, which split into 2 and became my twins. All right. So that's all for today. I'm going to save the rest of the cards for later. And I'll see you next time for part 3. All right. Peace.